Hello to everyone on YouTube and Instagram. It's Makeda Voletta, also known as TheBodyScientist and the Renaissance Amazon. I'm live right now on my YouTube page, the Renaissance Amazon, and on my IG page at the underscore Renaissance underscore Amazon underscore 81. So be sure to follow me in both places. If you're on IG, I will be archiving this on YouTube. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves, okay, and staying sane. There are so many things I want to talk about today. Those of you who follow me and are familiar with me, you know that I'm a science nerd. I'm very much into the body and health prevention. And I'm a critical thinker, okay? And so for the past few days, I've been researching. I've done some other videos also. You want to check out my videos on my YouTube page, TheBodyScientist 81, okay? I have 3 videos thus far that I've done about coronavirus, getting into the science and important ways that we can prevent, getting sick. But I will say that while things have changed quickly, okay, and even my opinions have changed from the initial video that I did on the topic when I myself didn't really believe it was as serious as it was, okay? I am guilty, and I'm somebody who will admit when I'm wrong, okay? Because I do research and I do look at stats and numbers. And there's many things to be considered, okay? There's a lot of interconnectedness in this whole situation. Many lessons and many things that we need to prepare for, okay? Now is a time to be strong, all right? It's a time to be strong, to really work on that, okay? And I also feel like it's a time where we are going to be forced to shapeshift and understand things from other perspectives, okay? And which is going to teach us all. And what I mean by that even is, Kanye, I remember Kanye saying, last year or whatever, that slavery is a choice, that Black people who were slaves, that was a choice. And that made a lot of Black people upset. And I, even in the movie Black Panther, right? I really didn't like in Black Panther when Michael B. Jordan's character, that's his name, right? In the end of the movie was talking about, like, he made that quote about, I forget what the quote was, but it has something to do with like killing himself before he was a slave, and kind of, and I forget the actual quote, but it almost, to me, was insulting to our ancestors, right? Because I feel like, how dare we stand here now and judge our ancestors for not killing themselves during slavery? There's so many survival tactics in medicine. There's so many things that happened during that time. And I always thought somebody could look at us, in the future or whatever, and think the same thing about us, that we chose to live in a certain situation. So now the whole world is getting a piece of medicine of what it is to have great losses, to be totally restricted, and to be able to do nothing about it, okay? And are you going to kill yourself? Are you going to kill yourself, okay? So if the answer is no, then maybe now you can understand how, as Afro-Americans or Afro-Indigenous people in the Americas, why our ancestors didn't kill themselves, okay? And we're here because of them. People have gone through some rough times on this planet. There have been some rough times. And it hasn't just been for Black people in America, or Black people in the Americas, or a certain group of people. There have been rough times on this planet where there's been a lot of death, a lot of traumatic stuff happening. Even if you think about what happened to Native Americans here in North America during colonization and how horrible that could be. Because for me, on Thanksgiving, I always get very bothered by, like, just celebrating Thanksgiving blindly and not acknowledging the fact that there was a massacre in that day and all the horrible things that happened to Native Americans, and how you drive all throughout America. Same thing is true in Canada. Same thing is true in like parts of South America, where all you see is indigenous names for towns. And I mean, half the states in the US have Native American names. You know, when you drive through the states, you see tons of Native, you know, Massachusetts, Milwaukee, Tallahassee, Mississippi, you know, all of those are Native names, right? Chicago is, okay? So, okay. So the thing about this, and me doing research, because I've been researching a lot of things, and also I have a friend who is one of the leading scientists who is working on a vaccine, okay, who's working on a vaccine for this. And he has been researching coronaviruses for 8 years. And, you know, at first, I kind of like didn't want to bother him on the topic because I knew that he's really busy right now. Yesterday, he gave me the opportunity he shared some information with me and gave me the opportunity to ask certain questions. And I still have more questions, so I'm waiting back for more answers. So I'm going to be doing videos where I get more in depth with certain things once I get back to more answers, okay? Because the thing is that, you know, I did a video on why scientific literacy is important. And so understanding what scientists are doing, understanding, you know, the research behind it, because for me, one of my things with this coronavirus thing, and I think I said this before, I think that it is being spread. Yeah, I agree that Thanksgiving shouldn't be celebrated by Black Americans or Native Americans. I agree. I don't think it should be celebrated by anybody, but I definitely think Afro-Americans should be ashamed for just blindly celebrating Thanksgiving. Now I feel like if you're going to celebrate it, you know, make it an ancestral dinner or something, you know. But a lot of people don't have any mention to that. So anyhow, you know, I have mixed feelings about vaccines, but definitely I will say listening to the conversation about it, I kind of, you know, because from a public health standpoint, you know, I always believe in making yourself healthy and strong. This is why for years, you know, I have never taken my health for granted. And I've always been on top of, you know, doing everything I need to do to make sure my vitamin A is up to point. My vitamin D is up to point. That I have a bunch of anti-inflammatory saturated fats and omega-3 fats and, you know, making sure of those things. So, you know, exercising, all those things get your immune system up. Your immune system is completely has everything to do with your nutrition as well. So yes, you can use herbs and stuff like that, and you should, but herbs assist. The foundation starts with your diet, okay? But the problem is there are a lot of people who do not have access to better foods, okay? And so this is a big issue because in my graduate program, and I talk about this in a lot of my other YouTube videos on my page, TheBodyScientist 81, which I highly recommend you look at. I highly recommend you look at my videos on probiotics, on GMO foods, genetically modified foods, because genetically modified foods is a damn pandemic and it's causing more issues than you think, okay? So I talk about a lot of these things. But in my graduate program that I was in, it was the only program in the US that did not take money from the food industry. It was a program in applied physiology and nutrition education at Columbia University, right? And they were the only one of this global food issue, right? And also the fact that, you know, they put a lot of stress on sustainable agriculture, right? So they would say, and I remember they would say, most people who live in the cities don't think about where their food comes from past the supermarket, right? And so when they said that, I was like, yeah, you're right. I didn't ever think of that. Even as a nutrition minor in undergrad, I never thought about where my food came from, right? So when they mentioned that, they made us very much aware of sustainable agriculture and why that is so important, okay? And they would say most of the food in Manhattan, okay, because I'm from New York City, Manhattan is an island, okay? It's a little island at that. They were like, Manhattan's an island. If there's a huge emergency and they close the gates, they close the bridges to get on off this island, there won't be any food, okay? Because the food that's on Manhattan Island is not grown, it does not come from Manhattan Island. And this is an issue all over the world. And this is definitely an issue in the United States, where if you live, you know, in most of America and you're going to the store getting bananas and mangoes and, you know, strawberries and stuff in the wintertime, avocados, that doesn't come from your local environment. That comes from across the country, another country. You know, it's grown in soil that is depleted, sprayed up with pesticides, okay? So sustainable agriculture is really important, which is really focusing on getting stuff from local farmers, local sources of food, okay? That's grown organic, you know, the way it's supposed to, but it's local, so it's higher nutritional value. It's supporting local farmers. You know, that's incredibly important. And I remember I had my professors who had gone, I'm losing my light, this sucks. I had professors at Teachers College Columbia who had studied extensively in Cuba, right? And they were talking about how, and this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to go to Cuba. There were two reasons. One was to study the food system and how they deal with that. The other was because I'm a serious student of Afro-Cuban dance forms, Afro-diasporic dance forms, and definitely Afro-Cuban dance forms, which there are many under that umbrella. And I'm so thankful I had the opportunity to go to Cuba 5 times, because who knows what is about to happen. But I remember them telling us that in Cuba, because that was the one country that was cut off from the U.S., they were not forced to do GMO, to do monocropping, which is a huge problem. I'm going to do a video. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I was going to do it today, but I'm losing my light. So tomorrow I'm going to do a video on my other page, TheBodyScientist 81. Definitely make sure you check it out, where I'm going to be talking about sustainable agriculture and really going more into depth and explaining that about our food system. But just listen to what I'm saying now. Okay, that, yes, so now this is the thing. There's way more antibiotics and chemicals put into the meat and the milk and the produce, okay? The same thing is true of the produce. There's way more of that put into our food than you realize, okay? There's way more of that than you fucking realize. Now, I'm telling you, okay, this is going to hit everybody this year. Listen, all right? And it's not just in the United States. In my traveling, this is one of the reasons why I was in Europe and in South America. Everywhere I go, I'm always looking, you know, in the Caribbean, wherever I go, at the food that people have access to. This is not just an issue in the United States, and it's actually worse in some other countries, right? But it's causing more problems than people think when it comes to lowered immunity, your susceptibility for shit. Why people are having so many problems, I mean, on so many levels, okay? And most of the food that we are consuming is coming from another country. There's meat that comes from China, okay? There's produce that comes from China. And as I say that, I have a little funny side story. Because one thing that's making me a little nervous, I'm in Chicago, but I'm from New York City. My parents are in New York City. My mother is 70, my dad is 77. And so my parents are okay. But part of me wanted to go to New York just so I could make sure if anything happens, they're good. So I could, you know, go and run errands for them so they don't have to be out. So part of me wanted to go to New York to do that because I'm a little nervous about that. But then I'm like, I don't want to go to New York and not be able to get back to my home in Chicago. I don't want to be stuck in New York. I don't want to fly somewhere and get sent to quarantine camp or something, right? And then I'm like, I have a twin brother and he's in New York. So I know that he got my parents, like he, you know, if anything happens, but I don't like the idea of not being able to get to New York if I need to. So I kind of have been on the fence. Now, my parents, for a very long time, I have been telling them what to do in terms of taking care of their health. I'm on both of them, okay? My mom is the perfect student. She listens to everything I say. And funny enough, okay, I have a YouTube video about probiotics and strengthening the digestion and the immune system, okay? I will post it below on this YouTube video. So I have a video that I did last year, I think, or it was last year, the year before that, on strengthening your immunity and digestion with probiotics, right? And so my page, TheBodyScientist 81. And in this video, I explained this situation in more depth, okay? That I'm about to explain with my mom. So back in I think it was 2017, she had this weird cough, right? And me and my mom are so thankful she didn't have this cough now, because people definitely would think she had coronavirus, and I definitely would be paranoid. Because back in 2017, my mom had this weird cough, and it was constant. I mean, constant. If I was in the car with her, literally 5 minutes wouldn't go by without her coughing, and it sounded like she had fluid in her lungs. And I remember I got upset with her because I heard her during Thanksgiving when I was home. Then when I was there during Christmas, I'm like, she was still doing it. It sounded like she was coughing up her lungs. I'm like, Mom, why didn't you go to the doctor? And I'm all upset with her. We go to Virginia for Christmas. We're with her sister, who's a retired nurse, who's in her mid-70s. She heard my mother. Me and my mom go to the hospital that night. She thought my mom had fluid in her lungs. I thought my mom had fluid in her lungs. They examined my mom. She did not have fluid in her lungs. They didn't understand what the issue was. So I'm losing my light. So I'm shortening the story. Basically, we took her to a cardiologist, bunch of doctors, whatever. Nobody ever found anything wrong with her lungs or her heart. My mom was diagnosing herself with COPD, but when she went to the cardiologist, they did heart scans, lung scans, they never saw an issue. My mom smoked cigarettes for years, but she stopped smoking cigarettes cold turkey 4 or 5 years ago. And so they didn't find anything wrong with her lungs or her heart. And so there's a chiropractor that I go to in New York who does applied kinesiology from traditional Chinese medicine. And it is a way to, I'll get more into that. I wish I wasn't losing my freaking light. Should have done this video earlier because my video on YouTube is getting dark. But he basically said, he looked at my mom's labs and examined a lot of things, and he thought that she had a lung infection that had probably been there for a while. So he told her to take oil of oregano, right? Because he said oil of oregano is very good for getting rid of infections in the lungs that have been there for a while. So I told my mom to take probiotics. He told her that too. I told her to take a high doses of probiotics. I told her to take cod liver oil, which is seriously anti-inflammatory, and it's very high in vitamin A and D, which I didn't know back then that vitamin D plays a huge role in protecting you against lung infections. I didn't know that part, but I did know that the fats in cod liver oil was extremely important for anti-inflammatory. So I had her taking that. Then I had my mom do yoga, and she started doing water aerobics and working on her breathing. After a few months of that, her cough, maybe it's a couple months actually, her cough went completely away, and it has not come back since then. Okay, my mom does not have that cough anymore. But with this happening, my mom is very much into exercise now. She never used to be an exercise person. Now she be yoga. She's doing water aerobics. I went to one of her yoga classes in Harlem, and it was challenging me. Okay. So the thing is that I told my mom, she's on a high dose of cod liver oil right now. She's on a high dose of probiotics right now. I had food ordered for my parents from the farm that I get food from in New York, which I had raw milk, raw cream, kefir, eggs from the farm, bone broth, okay? All of those things are very high in vitamin A and D. They're high in the fats you need to keep your lungs strong. And bone broth also is very important for your immune system. And the fermented foods. My mom's eating sauerkraut, stuff like that. My mom listens to everything that I say, right? Now, my dad, on the other hand, okay? My dad, I love my dad. I'm a daddy's girl, okay? I'm a daddy's girl. But ever since I was a little girl, I realized my dad didn't have good judgment. My dad is an intellectual. He's a Black scholar when it comes to, world history, world politics. He can have an intellectual conversation with you about any of that shit, not just Black shit, world shit. He was involved in the civil rights movement. He was a professor with no degree. Amazing, right? But the dude doesn't have good judgment, okay, with certain things and common sense. And so the one thing about my dad is that he eats anything, right? I've never seen him get sick. In my lifetime, I've seen my dad eat the nastiest from the nastiest places, okay? I don't eat my dad's food, and hopefully he doesn't see this video, doesn't break his heart. Dad, I love you if you happen to see this. But my dad was so unsanitary to me. So growing up, right? Because my dad was a writer. He was a journalist. So he worked at home, right? And my mom, she's a union organizer. First she was a secretary, then a union organizer. And so I remember my dad would cook for us a lot. And both of my parents loved to cook, which both of my parents are Geminis. And I never believe when people say Geminis are like crazy or like, I never believed that. But now I'm starting to believe they're a little off. They're a little bipolar, maybe. I used to not believe that. But Geminis are also very smart. But both my parents are Geminis. And so both my parents love to cook, right? But my mom's actually a very good cook. My dad thinks he's a very good cook, and some people like his food. But to me, he was very unsanitary. So I just, to this day, won't eat his food. Now, my dad doesn't listen to the things I tell him. He always asks me for my help, but then he doesn't listen to me, right? And he thinks the doctor knows or whatever, my dad had a radio show in New York, and back in like 2004, 5, 6, 7, whenever that whole swine flu, bird flu thing was a big deal, I was going on his radio show debating medical doctors about why you should not take the bird flu vaccine, right? And my dad didn't agree with me. He thought that you should take the flu vaccine. He takes that vaccine. My mom doesn't do that. My mom listens to me. She trusts me, right? And I've helped her with stuff. So my dad, he always loves to go food shopping in Chinatown in New York City, okay? I think that Chinatown in New York City is fucking disgusting, okay? If you have ever been to Chinatown in New York City, it is nasty, okay? Snot rockets galore being blown on the sidewalk, just nasty and unsanitary. Rats, people have rats in their apartment. I don't know anybody in other parts of New York that have rats in their apartment. People in Chinatown do, okay? You can pay me to eat anything in Chinatown. My mom, for the longest, is always sending me articles about something the Chinese is doing with food, bleaching the garlic, selling plastic rice, all this fake shit that they import, okay? So much of the world is getting shit from China, okay? And when you eat the motherfucking Popeyes chicken sandwiches and McDonald's bullshit, you're probably eating some meat from China, okay? This is the reason why I'm so anal about my food. This is the reason why I go out of my way to get my food from farmers markets as I traveled around. And I feel like it's a lot easier to do in the US than it has been in some other countries I've even been to. But no matter where I go, I really do that because it's important, right? So anyhow, I tell my dad, I said to him, because just, I just came back from Colombia on March 4th. Last month when I was in Colombia, and my dad's freaking out, like, come back before you get stuck out the country. And I'm laughing at him, like, I'm not going to get stuck. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't think it was going to get this bad. So I told my dad, you stay out of Chinatown. Stop buying stuff from Chinatown, right? So I called him the other day to give him the advice I was giving my mother. I ordered this food to the house. I wanted him to eat this food because my dad constantly cooks up shit, right? But he likes to buy the cheapest version of everything. The cheapest version he could find of everything. So that's why he loves Chinatown, because he's talking about all these deals he gets, right? So I talked to okay, so anyway, another thing, sidebar. I've never seen my dad be sick in my life. 77 years old. I have never seen the man have a headache. I've never seen him have allergies. Never seen him have a cold. Never seen him have a stomach ache. He's the only person I know that I've never seen him be sick, but yet he makes the worst decisions when it comes to food, okay? He eats so much cake, and he always got a whole bunch of donuts and cakes. Like, me and my mom, it makes our stomach hurt looking at the stuff that he eats, okay? All this Intamin stuff, desserts. He's from Florida, and I'm realizing that Spanish colony people, like when I go to all the Spanish-speaking countries, they love bakeries, panaderias everywhere, and my dad is like that. Like, I'm not into all the baked goods and bread and sweets and dessert and stuff. My dad's definitely into that, and he makes all this food. So I'm trying to tell him, look, consume the broth. Cook with, I got him cooking with ghee. At least he no longer uses vegetable oil. I keep sending ghee, beef tallow, lard to the house. Ghee is his number one thing. That's also very high in vitamin D. Both my parents are low in vitamin D. Most people are low in vitamin D. It's an international deficiency, right? Okay, so anyhow, when I was just in New York just now, I saw flu medication in my parents' house, right? And my twin brother was around, so I asked him, who's this belong to? And he said, oh, that was Dad's. And I was like, Dad was sick? And he was like, yeah. So then I started to joke with my brother, because my family, we always crack jokes about my dad, about how he's like invincible. He never gets sick. When I was a kid, we used to wonder how he did not get food poisoning, because he would eat from like the nastiest places. You're like, how do you not get food poisoning? So my brother said, yeah. So I said to my brother, he was really sick for real. And my brother was like, yeah, no, he was sick. So I'm like, okay, how come nobody told me? All right. talking to my dad on the phone, like yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago. And I told him, listen, stay out of Chinatown. Do not buy any more food in Chinatown. My dad said to me, oh, I'm going to stay out of Chinatown. He was like, in fact, the last time I was in Chinatown, I got really, really sick. When I came back here, I was laid out for a week and I thought I had the flu. He's like, I might have already had coronavirus. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, my dad's a hot mess, right? So, and I'm like, he might have, because if he actually was, sick, even though my mom said that when she saw him, he didn't look sick to her. So I don't know. But, and they don't sleep in the same room. Like, so he kind of already self-quarantines. He be in his room, listening to his music and writing like a mad scientist and talking to people and doing whatever. So I don't know. But he says to my mom tells me that my dad said to her yesterday that he can't wait to go back down to Chinatown to buy his food. And I said, I was shocked. I'm like, Mom, what? Like, he said he can't wait to go back to Chinatown to buy his food. Like, I just give up on him. And he doesn't want to listen to what I'm saying to him. He told my mom, like, whatever. So I'm just like, I am doing my best to keep my parents healthy, but you can't make people do things they don't want to do. Hope, you got to pray for your loved ones. But listen, where we get our food from matters, okay? Now, think about this. Everything is interconnected. This is the point of this conversation I want to get into, is if we think it's a big deal now that this virus is causing us to miss work and not be able to go to the gym, which is driving me crazy, okay? Not be able to move around freely, which drives me crazy because I travel around the country, I travel out of the country. It's hard for me to just sit still in Chicago and not be able to move. And my family lives up and down the East Coast, right, as well. But if we think that's an inconvenience, imagine if the virus or a virus was spreading throughout our food supply. And imagine if crops didn't grow, okay? And imagine if it poisoned a lot of animals, okay? And now there's no meat, there's no fruits and vegetables, and there's actually literally no food. Oops. Yeah, and there's actually literally no food. Imagine what would happen then, okay? And that's very possible. And especially when you think about the weather on the planet as well. You need certain seasons of rain and this and that and not having too much heat. And the way that the seasons happen, the sun, and the rain, and the balance of all that, okay? All of that, the earth is very fragile. And as humans, we have been very, what is the word? Non-sensitive, non-empathetic, unaware, unconscious of the fact that we play a role. When I was in the seventh grade, okay, which was in 94, yeah, we had a whole semester, okay, a whole semester on global warming, okay? It was a science class called Global Warming in the New York City public schools. I realized back then that global warming was a big deal, okay? And then I remember in my 10th grade biology class in a New York City public school that about why hand sanitizer destroys your microbiome and actually makes you more susceptible for infections. I'm talking about if you're using like the artificial hand sanitizers, antibacterials, antibiotics, those things, right? So I have long understood since back then about the problem with that. And I've done YouTube videos on that on my other page, TheBodyScientist 81. Be sure you listen to that, okay? And I'm going to be doing two more scientific videos tomorrow because I wanted to get into some more of the science behind how you get the virus and stuff like that, especially because being able to talk to somebody who's on the front lines of research, working for the government, and being able to ask questions. And so he told me some things and I asked some more questions. So I'm waiting to hear more before. And things are constantly changing. So the facts are constantly changing. So tomorrow I will do more of that. But there's so many things I want to say that I'm like, so the whole thing with the food, okay, people need to really start, if you can, because some people don't have access to this, which is awesome, okay? It's tainted, trust me. for the commercial food industry. But it's not just the meat, it's also the fruits and vegetables too. And I'm saying that, okay? Check the videos that I post below on my YouTube page, people. Learn. Now is the time for you to fucking learn, because it could be the difference between not just life and death, but life and getting chronically sick. Because the thing about this coronavirus that makes it different than the flu is the fact that a lot of people who are recovering from it, they're having like 30% reduced lung function, okay? They have holes in their lungs, looking like honeycombs. And it's not true that it's only affecting older people. There are a lot of people, and there are a lot of people who are from like in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who are coming in with really bad cases where they need to be on a ventilator. When it gets to that point, you're not going to be 100% again. Who wants to lose 30% of their lung capacity? Come on. You know, and a lot of that has to do with your immune system. If somebody's in their 20s, 30s, 40s getting sick from this, your immune system is suppressed. It's low. It's not where it should be. And that's true of a lot of people because of chronic vitamin deficiencies, being chronically low in vitamin D, being chronically low in vitamin A, having a whole bunch of the wrong fats, eating too much sugar, you know, haven't had too much probiotics in your life. A lot of people have had a few courses, I'm not probiotics, antibiotics. A lot of people have had a few courses of antibiotics in their lifetime. People that have been on steroids, people that have been on birth control pills. All those things greatly wreck your gut flora and your microbiome. Every time you use hand sanitizers, every time you're using antibacterial soap, every time you're eating food that has a whole bunch of pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics in it, every time you drink fluoridated water, all of that is destroying your microbiome. So if you're not making a conscious effort to inoculate yourself with good bacteria, because they are on the first line of defense of your protection against infectious diseases, that and your skin. This virus is airborne, okay? So it's not just getting it from touching surfaces, okay? It's airborne. It can linger in the air on air particles for long periods of time. And so I want to get more into depth into that on the video that I do tomorrow on the science of this virus, because there's a lot more that's known than than initially. And so you can't just get it from touching things. It can be passed around buildings through ventilation, okay? It can, if you're sitting in a room with somebody and just breathing the air that they're breathing, you don't have to touch them. You can get inoculated and sick from this virus, okay? And the thing is, at first, I thought it wasn't that big of a deal because I'm thinking, oh, the flu because there's many people. And I was guilty of saying that in one of my first videos. I also saw a lot of doctors and scientists say it. But if you look at the rate, that's because it was also pretty new. When you look at what's happening in China, in Italy, in Iran, the rate of infection is tremendous. And the percentage of deaths is higher. The percentage of chronic cases and how quickly it moves is higher. So we need to expect waves, okay? Because the thing about this virus too is that people can be a little sick and then feel better and then get sick again, okay? That can happen. They're saying that when people become hospitalized, maybe about 7 days later is when they die, okay? Or 7 days later, it'll get like so much worse, okay? And we have an issue with our medical professionals being exposed to the virus, okay? My heart goes out to all the ER nurses, ER doctors, the ICU doctors and nurses, and I have personal friends who are ER doctors in ER nurses in New York City, okay? I have personal friends who are ICU doctors in New York City, and I worry about them. One of my clients, and friends, because a lot of times my clients become my friends in New York City, is an ICU surgeon in Brooklyn. And just a couple of days ago, he was telling me that there was no plan for them. The hospital had no conversation with them about how to protect themselves or anything, okay? There's a shortage of protective gear, okay? Hospitals, like maybe like what all the hospitals in the US use in a year, one hospital used in 3 months, okay? So this is an issue. You see people, and I definitely care because, I mean, it's not just in New York. I mean, New York is getting hit very hard, the West Coast, but it's not just that. You have rural medicine, you have urban medicine, where urban medicine, yes, you could have a whole lot of large numbers of people, right, at once. But in rural medicine, a lot of times they don't have the resources in the country. They don't have the capacity to the higher level treatment facilities, okay? So there are challenges, and this virus is highly infectious. They shut down Midway Airport in Chicago because several air traffic controllers tested positive. And when people test positive, even certain celebrities say, I feel fine. Yeah, but the thing is that how will you feel next week and the week after that? And it's also highly infectious. And it's not just older people. A lot of younger people getting very sick. Also, in my research, I found that it can also affect your gut, your intestines. It can cause diarrhea. It can cause vomiting. Okay, so it's not just the lungs. Okay, now, because this virus is new, there's a lot that they're still learning and researching, and that is what I stay up on, okay? I listen to the nerdy shit. I look at the nerdy studies. Even understanding, like I kept trying to understand, is this a lipid-contained virus? Because I've been studying lipid-contained viruses and how to kill them for a long time. And I mean kill them in vivo, okay? That's why I'm telling you, listen to the videos. Like, I'm thankful right now that I know what I know. I'm thankful right now that I've been doing what I've been doing. I'm thankful right now that I've had my parents, even though my dad is difficult, listening to me. And I'm thankful that my twin brother's in New York. I mean, I really kind of want to go there. Then I have a lot of elderly people in my family. I have an aunt that is very dear to me in New Jersey, like close to Atlantic City. I wish I could go check on her, but she told me days ago. She has a woman that comes to clean, and she told, and help her. And she told the woman, my aunt is almost 80, that, when you come to my house, just, go, don't stop. She didn't want her to work with another person before. She said, don't stop nowhere, come straight here. The woman brought my aunt the mail up the porch. My aunt said, put that in the bag. I'm not touching that. My aunt was a school teacher for years and also a nurse prior to that. And my aunt's, lover, he was in Vietnam. So he has a lot of, even though you can't tell by looking at him, he has a lot of health issues, right? But he has several grandkids and great-grandkids. And he went to go out with his grandkids, and my aunt told him, you're not coming by my house, okay, at all, if you've gone out with them. You need to sit down because you have way too many problems. And this is real. If you are immunocompromised already, even like someone like myself, I'm not worried that I will get really sick from it, but I also take it serious because I don't want to be sick, okay? Being sick sucks. Some people will get sick and they'll recover, but who the fuck wants to be sick? Like, I don't get colds and flus. I can't remember the last time I got a cold or flu because I've always been working on my immune system. And again, that's based in nutrition and also exercising plays a huge role in your immune system. Also, not stressing, okay? Because viruses can go dormant and then be reactivated again. This is one of the ways that viruses work. They can go dormant and they reactivate when you're not taking care of yourself, when you don't have enough of the right nutrition, when you are sleep deprived, when you are highly stressed. It does affect your immune system and can allow viruses to reactivate. This is a fact. And I'm going to get more into that in my videos tomorrow. It's getting darker and darker. Today was a cloudy day in Chicago, which sucks. So I didn't even get through everything I wanted to say. But we need to protect our healthcare workers. We need to care about that, okay? We need to, now is the time to realize that everything is interconnected. And that me even thinking about flying to New York, like I don't want to get stuck in New York because I want to be in my own damn house, right? But me flying to New York, I'm thinking, am I going to do more help to my parents or harm? Because all the people that I'm going to pass, going to New York, my twin brother, whenever he goes to my parents, I told him, take off your clothes, wash before you touch them or anything, And my twin brother said, I hear you loud and clear. My mom told me when my brother goes out, he is putting on gloves. And my mom's telling me he's taking it very seriously. And it's sad that we have to live this way. But it's important for us to understand that if you think about cells, right? Cells have all these different parts, right? The ribosomes, the organelles, all these different things, the nucleus, the phospholipid bilayer around the cell. And in the cells, there are, it gets down to, you have electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and electrons and protons. Things keep getting smaller and smaller. I remember being in chemistry in college and thinking to myself, because I'm not into astrology. That's not my area of expertise and knowledge. But I remember thinking, I'm looking into a cell, into molecules, micro organism, micro molecules, nanomolecules. But it's the same thing if you're looking to outer space, how we know there's other planets in this galaxy, but we don't even know, like astrophysicists say that there's probably like 1 million other galaxies. So when you think about how exponential the universe is, then to me, it makes it clear that we are probably a virus in a cell on another organism that is totally unaware of us. And when viruses infect a cell, okay, they're disrespectful. They poison that cell until that cell is destroyed. Hence the holes in people's lungs, okay, what viruses can do. And it can cause cancer, okay? So it's like, what have we as humans done? The glaciers are melting, okay? They're freaking melting. There's too much water on this planet. I've been saying, my people are from Florida, okay? They don't really live there anymore. My dad is from St. Augustine, Florida. My mom's father is from Pensacola, Florida. We have no connection to Pensacola, Florida. My mom grew up in Western Pennsylvania in the mountains. My dad grew up in St. Augustine, but him and his family moved north, right? I'm from the island of Manhattan. That's where my parents live now. Manhattan's an island, but lower Manhattan is below sea level. Upper Manhattan in Harlem, Sugar Hill, where I'm from, is 230 feet above sea level. It's not going to flood up there. If you have to get off the island of Manhattan, because New York has always been, with terrorism, this is not, we're a threat for hurricanes, you might have to get off that island. You can get off of the island of Manhattan very easily from where my parents are, which is the most narrow point in Manhattan, way above sea level. You can get to the Bronx in 2 seconds. The Bronx is very hilly, and it's the only part of New York City that's connected to mainland, where you can then be in Connecticut, Massachusetts, without crossing any water, and it's hilly, very safe. We could also go into New Jersey. I wouldn't go into New Jersey. I would go into the Bronx and up into Connecticut, right? So people in Florida. Florida is a long peninsula out into the ocean. It's flat in most of Florida. I've never seen a hill in Florida. I heard there's hills in Tallahassee. I went to Tallahassee once. I don't remember hills, but I was like really, really young. But Florida to me is pretty flat, and you have to drive if you're in South Florida, you have to drive for hours to get to higher ground. So what do you do when the water starts coming? Okay, because let's not forget, we still have environmental issues. So what if that affects our food? What if that affects, there's a bad hurricane season, okay, and some people get wiped the fuck out. How is anybody going to help you when we're going through this? How is anybody going to help you when we're going through this? Okay, the system is strained. So now humankind is really getting to see all these things about what you're doing to the environment, what you're doing to the air. We're going to see what the consequences of the shit that we've been told, and see that so many people have been selfish and lazy and trying to conserve and to try not to be so wasteful. A lot of people, and it has to be a group effort. It can't just be one country. You know what? We all share this fucking planet together. So now this is the lesson that we are all seeing. It's stressful to me to realize that there's nowhere in the world I can fucking run to, okay? I love to go dancing, okay? First of all, I love to work out in the gym, squats, work my legs. I love to work my legs in the gym. I'm not a out at home kind of person. I mean, I have a pole, I could do stuff, right? But that shit keeps me sane. Can't do that. I can't even get on the plane and say, you know what, I'm gonna go to fucking LA, I'm gonna go to the Bay, I'm gonna go to New York and go to the gym. I can't do that because all the gyms are closed. I love to go dancing. I live for that. Dance classes are what gets me through so much trauma. So all the traumatic things that I went through in my life, I would go to Haitian dance classes, Afro-Cuban dance classes, Congolese dance classes with live drums. That shit is medicine. And it is medicine that our ancestors, Afro-Indigenous ancestors in America use, and it is potent. But I can't do that right now. I love to go out dancing. I've been dreaming of going back to Cuba so I can dance, okay? I love, Cuba has an unmatched dance and music culture. And that's one thing I really love about Cuba. I've been dreaming about going back there to do that. I don't know when I'll be able to do that. I love to dance and party in New Orleans. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that. I was excited for Essence Fest. It just, we don't know, So to me, that's highly stressful to think of that. All of these things that really help to keep me sane, and then other people like strippers, strip clubs, okay? Like the few times I've been in strip clubs, I remember thinking to myself, when I would observe certain men in the strip club, I remember thinking, this strip club, strippers, the strip club, the whole vibe is probably saving some men from killing somebody this week. You know what I'm saying? Like, just for some people, that's medicine. For some people, booty cheeks jiggling in their face is medicine. It might calm him all the way the fuck down. I think that we might see an increase in violence because people can't go to the gym. People can't get out of the house and be around people that's driving them crazy because people don't have food or whatever, okay? And people can't go to the strip clubs. They can't travel. They can't go out to eat. People can't have funerals. So for me, I personally know people who were in the middle of planning funerals for loved ones and can't do it, okay? Now, think about how traumatic that is, okay? Think about how traumatic that is. So for the people who are complaining, I can't celebrate my birthday, man, shut the fuck up about your birthday, okay? That shit is not important. I don't give a fuck or have sympathy for anybody who can't celebrate their birthday. What about the people who are about to get married and can't have their weddings, and especially the people who can't have funerals? We need to care about the healthcare workers. I have a lot more to say about that. It's coming through my mind right now, but I've been talking already for 47 minutes and it's getting completely dark in here. So this conversation will be to be continued. Just consider the things that I'm saying. Look at the links that I post below, okay? And pay attention tomorrow because I'll be doing some important videos on my page, The Body Scientist 81. And that's all, people, all right? Take care, be safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk soon. Okay, bye, people.